evening, everyone. Welcome to Woodstock City Council, August 10th, 2023 edition. Tonight's meeting is a hybrid meeting being held in person here in council chambers and electronically in accordance with section 238 subsection 3.3 of the Municipal Act and section 16.6.24 of the City of Woodstock Procedure Bylaw. This meeting is being live streamed on the city's YouTube channel, and a recording will be posted on the city's website following the meeting. The meeting will also be broadcast on Rogers TV. An agenda of the meeting can be found on the agendas, meetings, and minutes page of the city's website. And tonight, all councilors are here in person, so no one will be on Zoom, though we do have some delegations, my understanding, later on. So we'll get right into it. We did have a closed session this evening that ended at 6:50. Brings us to disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any disclosures? Councillor Lauder?
Thank you. I have two. The first one, Councillor Connie Lauder, declare the following potential indirect pecuniary interest. Agenda item number 9E, request for extension of draft approval plan of subdivision, Village of Sally Creek. The subject matter, the plan of subdivision for the Village of Sally Creek. I have an indirect pecuniary interest in item 9E. I am a resident of the Villages of Sally Creek. And the other one, Councillor Connie Lauder, declare the following potential indirect pecuniary interest. Agenda item number 14.B.1, transit service to 1231 Nellis Street. The subject matter is the transit service to 1231 Nellis Street. I have an indirect pecuniary interest in item 14.B.1. I'm a member of the board of the directors of the Woodstock Nonprofit Board.
Thank you. Any other disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none. No matters arising from the minutes. So the minutes, Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, thanks. Moved by myself, Councillor Mark Schadenberg, seconded by Councillor Deb Tate, that the minutes of the regular meeting of Woodstock City Council held on July 13th, 2023 be adopted.
Thank you. Any questions on that or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed? Carried. Next up, July 13th, council minutes. Councillor Schadenberg.
Yes, additions to the agenda. Moved by Councillor Mark Schadenberg, seconded by Councillor Liz Wismer Van Meer, that the following items be added to the agenda. Delegation 7A, Aleem Kenji, fireworks ban, and also correspondence with item number 10F, Cody Zimmer, fireworks ban.
Thank you. Any questions on those? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. There are additions to the agenda. No presentations tonight, but we do have some delegations, and I will remind the delegations that we do have a 5-minute limit on delegation, so we ask that you respect this during your delegation. First up is Aleem Kenji for the fireworks ban. I believe he is virtual.
Good evening. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. Before I begin, I just want to make sure everyone can hear and see me okay.
Yes, welcome. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you. Well, good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Aleem Kenji. I am the Chief Advocacy Officer of the Canadian National Fireworks Association, where I represent our 3,000 members, including many right here in Woodstock and across Oxford County, where we advocate to governments across Canada and work with industry and public sector partners as the leading voice on behalf of the very federally regulated and legally permissible fireworks industry. The report before you today proposes a ban on the sale and use of fireworks in Woodstock. By doing so, as elected and public officials, you are in fact willingly creating an unsafe environment by allowing an underground marketplace from a very legal and highly regulated market that you will put out of business and take jobs away. Woodstock residents will continue to seek out fireworks in other cities or even buy online, delivered right to their door to celebrate for their special events or other religious and cultural celebrations. With a growing Asian and South Asian community, it is important to recognize that residents welcome cultural and religious observances that they bring to this community. The South Asian religious festival of Diwali, for those that may not know, is a celebration of light over darkness, celebrated by 1 billion people globally. Lunar New Year is the largest holiday on planet Earth, celebrated by 1.5 billion, where worshipers believe that fire and fireworks sounds can actually dispel bad luck and scare away evil spirits. These traditions and religious observances have included fireworks for centuries. As a home to 50,000 residents, it's questionable why an unenforceable ban in the city with bylaw officers that will not be able to keep up is being pursued. A total of 50 complaints last year and 31 this year up to July shows that this is not a widespread community issues. Of those that complain, there are very well multiple repeat callers from the same neighborhood, quite possibly, which proves even more that the implementation of the ban is not at the will of this entire city. Indeed, it is in the best interest of the municipality of Woodstock to regulate and license the sale of fireworks. We stand ready to work with city officials, Chief Slager in your city, to support regulations as we do in cities across this beautiful country. It is important to flag for you that the report before you contains incorrect information and errors, where it states on page 2 that Caledon has a fireworks ban. Council has in fact committed to re-examining the ban, given ongoing resident and media coverage, you can Google it, that shows the ban is not working because enforcement is costly, and reactionary, with city officials acknowledging that the ban is unenforceable. The same is said of Brampton in the report before you. However, the fireworks ban has not been tested since it went into effect after Diwali last year, celebrated by hundreds of thousands of people in Brampton. A true indication of Brampton having a ban will be after Diwali. The report before you also proposes the owner of a property to be charged when fireworks are used. How will this be enforced given fireworks are aerial? And bylaw officers will of course show up after they are used and will not be able to issue a citation for fines that may get imposed. This will only tie up your court system, given bylaw will get there after the fact and people will challenge you. The report speaks to local retailers and unsold stock. I think the real issue is those that are around Woodstock, outside your municipal borders, where your residents will purchase from, and those across the country where legal product will be purchased and brought right back here into Woodstock. Woodstock is not an island. And your ability to try and change human behavior in asking people not to buy one of 4,000 federally tested and regulated products will be minimal at best. We have seen the implications of elected officials trying to control human behavior during the pandemic and how this is viewed by your residents who will choose quite simply not to comply. Finally, the report talks about residents applying for a permit using fireworks at events. Based on our work in cities across Canada, I can tell you this will not happen. It is onerous and people will continue without a permit. To be clear, banning fireworks will not work, and based on our work in cities across Canada, education is a solution. The CNFA's Be a Good Neighbor program is something that we are proud of, where we remind people, as you can see by the flyer that we provide on the purchase of sale by vendors and retailers, to prepare ahead of time, respect the environment, celebrate responsibly, inform your neighbors, be safe when using fireworks, and clean up. This campaign is based on the federal rules, which are right inside of what we provide on the point of sale, stapled on every receipt. We'd be happy to work with your city on this and our vendor certification and employee training program, which is used in cities across Canada, so that people in Woodstock know the right ways on how to use fireworks, including vendors. We're already using that in dozens of cities across Canada. We ask that the report be deferred in favor of industry and community consultation, including the over 450 people that have, of course, signed a petition indicating that they wish to stop the ban from proceeding. I will end, if I have a quick second, with showing you a sample of a product. And what we're doing as an industry, outside of the instructions for use, QR codes, websites as well, that show people the right way to use these products, which again, 4,000 of which are very much legal and regulated by NRC and the federal government. And the Ontario Fire Code provincially also allows fireworks to be used in this beautiful province. I apologize, I'm not with you in Woodstock. I had the pleasure of visiting your community a few days ago with my family at the beautiful town of Port Stanley, and we drove through Woodstock, through en route home and through Kitchener as well. So my regrets for not being with you in person, and I'd be happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kanji. Any questions for the delegation? Councillor Leatherborough?
Through your worship, thank you to the delegation for the presentation. My question would just be, I believe the first correspondence I received was Monday, July 17th. And just in your presentation, when you noted the Be a Good Neighbor pamphlet, I was just curious, since the first correspondence, if you had done some research or learned about what the Woodstock Fire Department has done in the city of Woodstock, specifically around being a good neighbor and additional education.
Since my correspondence, in fact, even before that, you'll have it on record, Councillor, that I have reached out to council through the clerk to meet with staff, including the fire chief, to talk about how we can work together. Since that time and before, when those emails have sent, I have not received an opportunity to meet. I think, to your question, this shows that there has actually not been any community consultation with the industry, certainly with those that have signed the petition, 500 in your community, and others. And I would be more than happy to talk about what and learn about what the community is doing. And we'd be happy to input into that and partner, as we do with other fire chiefs in this country, about partnering about pushing through our Be a Good Neighbor program, which promotes education and safety first. Nothing undermines that. And be happy to have that conversation with any and all of your staff.
Continue.
Thank you, Your Worship. So my question was just kind of a yes or no, if you had learned about what the city of Woodstock and the Woodstock Fire Department had done over the course of the year. So I've written just a few things down just to share
Sure.
with you.
I thought that was a question. Is that a question?
So
because the answer to the question was, I have reached out to the city multiple times to meet, and I have not been given an opportunity to have that discussion.
So I'll provide the information now that I've taken down for you.
I'd like to say on a public record that the industry has made that attempt to reach out to the city, because I think your question was, have you met? The answer is no. But
that's okay. So I'll just tell you, I've prepared for this meeting tonight for a bunch of things, and I love notes. So I'll just write down. I just wrote down because I know you don't know me, so I do like to write things down ahead of time. So if you will, the city of Woodstock bylaws addressing consumer grade fireworks, since they were drafted in 1973 and through each revision since, have restricted the discharge of consumer fireworks to either Victoria Day, Canada Day, and Diwali, which was added in 2022. Safety instructions on the use of fireworks have been required to be provided by vendors since 2010. The Woodstock Fire Department, through multiple print, audio, and social media formats, have been educating the public about the restriction of the discharge dates. With the addition of Diwali in 2022, Woodstock Fire Prevention / Woodstock Fire Department created information cards printed in both English and Hindi with the bylaw restrictions and safety tips on them. So I do appreciate both your pamphlet of the Good Neighbor, and I appreciate the work that we do here in the city of Woodstock, specifically the Woodstock Fire Department. So thank you so much for your presentation.
That's great. And it's so wonderful to hear that the city has been doing that since 2010. What you may not know, Councillor, is that these are the federal rules that must be in place. They've been in place for decades. And most municipalities have been promoting that in one way, shape, or form for decades. So the fact that you're leaning into the federal regulations is actually required by law.
Thank you. Councillor Tate?
Through the chair, and appreciate the delegation. I'll just like to echo the comments that Councillor Leatherbro commented, I do take exception to your one comment that we are trying to control human behavior. I think we are doing the ban for the exact same reason that Brampton did it, and I have it right in front of me. The purpose of the fireworks ban was safety is the top priority for the city of Brampton, which is the same for us in Woodstock. The number one priority is safety. Migrates the risk of fires, injury and property damage, reduces air pollution and debris, reduces excessive noise, protects animal habitats. So I find it interesting. You think they're going to have problems going forward, which is fine, but they do have a full firework ban. But that is the reason that we gave for us that supported the ban. It wasn't for the reasons that you have listed. So I just want to make that clear for the public that we are here for all of the residents of Woodstock and not just some. I've had numerous people in support of the ban. So thank you for coming forward.
Thank you. That's fantastic. And in Brampton, as I said, if you were listening earlier, the ban has actually not been tested. As it relates to fireworks, if you refer to my email back from July that was sent to council, you will have read a document that I sent you, which is a research paper on fireworks and the environment. I will remind you, Councillor, that over 4,000 products are legally
Just
tested
point of
and
order
regulated.
to the delegation. I didn't ask a question. I thank you for your
I think your comments around the environment are
no,
actually.
I wasn't asking a question. I was just clarifying why we supported the ban. So thank you.
All right, Alexa, any other questions for the delegation? Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, from the mayor through to the delegation. I was just curious, you had a number of reasons as to why fireworks themselves likely should not be banned, and reasons why they're maybe even enjoyed by people and individuals. But what bothered me was the fact that you said that if we ban fireworks through the bylaw, which was the intention, that there would be a lot of people going to the court of law asking for the ban to be lifted, or to sort of say, well, to me, that's almost like anarchy to sort of say, well, gee, we've got 50 people all caught for speeding 50 kilometers over the limit. We really can't give them tickets because of the fact that that would just jam things up in the court of law. So that to me seemed to be an odd reasoning that you used as to why we should permit fireworks, because we just simply don't want to have a lot of people coming to the courts.
I think my comment was misunderstood respectfully, Councillor. What I was saying was that citations, if and when they're issued, because we all know this is reactionary, and we all know bylaw is going to get there well after their use. That's the experience in cities across the world. But the point is that if you were to issue a citation, it will be challenged. The point is the citation will be challenged. Why? Because your bylaw officer will not be able to prove that it was Joe Smith versus Jane Smith that lit off and ignited the firework. That is impossible to prove unless they are there. And bylaw is called after someone from your community complains. I wasn't suggesting people are going to break the law. What I was suggesting, Councillor, was that people will tie up your court system. They will tie up bylaw enforcement, and they will make it onerous and add costs to your municipality that your residents will pay for. No question, because they will be challenging this and say, you can't prove that I use the firework if you have a ban. I hope that clarifies my comment.
Continue.
I guess generally one more question, then maybe this is more towards our CIO, and it's more the legalities on issues by receiving some sort of a ticket from the city of Woodstock. Doesn't matter if it's in the bylaw office, the fire department, or a police officer, that the fact that they have been issued a summons of whatever sort of or ticket, that the city can stand on the fact that somebody has broken a bylaw.
Your worship, Councillor Schadenberg, that is correct. If provincial offenses notice has been issued under an offense of the proposed bylaw, it would go before the Justice of the Peace in the Ontario Court of Justice, and it would be determined as to whether or not that ticket is valid. The draft bylaw that you have before you deems the offender to be the owner of the property in the absence of any other information. So if the fireworks can be proven to be launched from a from a specific property, then that owner of that property is the deemed offender under that bylaw, because the owner of the property has the care and control and the responsibility of what happens on that property. So the ticket would be issued against that individual in the absence of any other individual stepping forward to take responsibility, and it would go before a justice of the peace if it was challenged. If it wasn't challenged, the set fine associated with that particular offense would be due and payable.
Thank you. Any other questions of the delegation? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Kanji, thank you very much for your presentation tonight.
Thank you, council.
Have a good night. No resolution is required as this is dealt with under Department Report 14I.1 Consumer Fireworks Ban Bylaw. Our next delegation did come in as a late request. So a resolution must be passed by council in accordance with 16.2.7 to allow the addition of a late delegation. So I am looking for a motion from the floor to allow. Councillor Schattenberg. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tate, Councillor Schattenberg, do you want to read the resolution?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that delegation 8B, Erica Hogan, representing Fat Boys Fireworks, can speak on behalf of the fireworks ban for the city of Woodstock.
Thank you. I need a vote, don't I? Yeah. All those in favor? Unanimous, carried. Okay. So we do have Miss Erica Hogan. If we can, I believe she's online as well. Welcome. I will remind you that 5 minutes for any delegations, please. Thank you.
Hello and good evening. My name is Erica Hogan and I am the store owner of Fat Boy Fireworks in Woodstock. I do apologize for my screen. I don't know if you can see me clearly or if it is fuzzy. I want to speak on behalf of the firework band, and Aleem did give you some amazing education of the industry, but I'm here to speak about operating the store in Woodstock for the past 10 years. I started with Fat Boy Fireworks when I was a teenager as a cashier. And in 10 years, I became a store owner in Woodstock where I operate the stand there. In the past 10 years, the whole idea behind Fat Boy Fireworks in Woodstock is first and foremost education. And we have had some amazing customers, return customers, new customers. And when customers come into the store, they're not looking for a firework to upset the neighbors. They're actually coming in to look for fireworks as a family, as a gathering, or together to celebrate Canada Day, Victoria Day, Diwali. And on those actual holidays, people are celebrating other things such as gender reveals, weddings that are happening within that time frame, or in my personal case, we use that for a memorial and to remember. In 2020, my daughter, Piper Marie Hogan, passed away, and my 5-year-old daughter, Sophie Renee, does fireworks because she tells me that fireworks are the closest gift that she can give her sister in heaven. So fireworks for us is very personal, not only for us, but other people making celebrations like that, whether it be religious, creating family bonds, or making memories. Now, I understand that this has been a common conversation about the ban of fireworks. In 10 years, I have been able to create a reputable brand where education is first. Whatever the requirements have been for the Woodstock Fire Department of how many signs must be posted, we have doubled that. Whatever is required, we have doubled that, meaning not only do we tell you to read and follow your safety instructions, we read them out to you as we're cashing you out. We give you a piece of paper and we show you the QR code to watch the video on the fireworks. And in those 10 years, not only have we helped make those memories, but we have been able to employ local community members. We have been located in the exact same building for 10 years with a previous landlord where that unit is consistently unable to be filled, but we have been able to invest our money into Woodstock for those reasons in that unit. We're here for community investment, And I know you either like fireworks or you don't, and that is okay. But I felt that it was very imperative that you could see it from my side as not only a store owner that uses this to provide for their family, but I have been able to watch so many families over 10 years in Woodstock come and purchase with us. And we have people that are coming out of town in these smaller areas, not only to purchase fireworks, but they make it a trip to come visit their firework girl, Erica, and then go shop at local merchants around Woodstock, investing more money into the community. I feel that this needs to be better looked at, and I believe there's a resolution, and the ban is not it. And we need to do what's best for the community, but I feel that as big as the education I am in with our customers, we need to educate the council. And if we can work together and find a solution, that would be best. And I just really appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to speak, specifically when I was a late request for the delegation. So thank you again for that time. But I just wanted you to see it from a store owner's perspective and someone who's been selling fireworks for 10 years in Woodstock and over 15 now in her total life. Fireworks are supposed to create memories, safe memories, creating bonding, lasting memories. We are here for the safety. I want to see my customers back every year in the safest manner. So I want to say thank you for listening to me. I know Aline once again had some amazing points to how we're following that. But if there are any questions or any dialogue that we can have, I am here for that. And I have worked with Woodstock Fire in the last 10 years. We hand out those pamphlets. Unfortunately, we didn't receive any this year, but when we did receive them, they were handed out at all times in addition to the paperwork that we hand out as a brand. But thank you very much for this opportunity. And if you have any questions or comments, I would love to hear them.
Thank you, Ms. Hogan. Any questions of the delegation from council? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you very much. And thank you again for the late submission. I truly appreciate your time.
No problem. Thank you. No
you.
resolution is required, as this also is dealt with under Department Report 14I.1, Consumer Fireworks Ban Bylaw. Moving law, consideration of planning reports, B 2324-8 and A 23-03-8. And I'm gonna remind council that I'm gonna ask Mr. Gibson to come up and do a presentation, then I'll ask for a motion after. Okay? So Mr. Gibson, thank you.
Gilbert, that's okay.
I'm sorry, Eric. I knew I should have just called you Eric.
So this first application is application for consent to create a vacant residential lot and retain a vacant residential lot with semi-detached dwellings present on the lot to be retained and a single detached dwelling lot to be severed. As well, minor variances are requested to reduce the minimum lot frontage for the lot to be retained and for the lot to be severed, and to reduce the minimum lot area of the proposed retained lands from 290 square meters to 285 square meters. No comments have been received from any of the neighbors respecting this application. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal is consistent with the official plan policies for infill development and low density residential areas. And the proposed variances can be considered appropriate and will still provide appropriate space for adequate maintenance of the property and adequate building setback. And as such, staff recommends support of the application.
Sorry, do you know if you have any graphics for there on the podium? Just for those watching at home or in the gallery here tonight? Okay.
I don't know the password. You do? I do not. That's a good thing.
Thank you.
No problem.
Seconder first.
Seconder. Seconder, Councilor Sandberg.
The motion that Woodstock City Council advise the Land Division Committee that the city supports application file A 23-308 submitted by Oxford Builders, Inc. for lands described as part lot 4 south side of Walter Street, Plan 36. City of Woodstock and municipally known as 844 Water Street as it relates to, and there's 3 conditions. And further, that Woodstock Council advised the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject land subject to the following, and there are 6 conditions.
Thank you. Any questions to Mr. Gilbert? On this? Before I call the vote? No? Okay, well, with that, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Thank you. Next up, we have 9B, B 23-25-8, A 23-04-8. Application consent for minor variance. Mr. Gilbert?
Thank you. This is another consent and minor variance application to create a new residential infill lot on the west side of Powell Street, north of Salter Avenue. The property did contain an existing single attached dwelling, which has been removed. Single attached dwellings are proposed to be constructed for both the lot to be severed and lot to be retained. Minor variances were also requested to reduce the minimum lot frontage for both the lot to be severed and retained from 12 meters to 11.4 meters, and to reduce the minimum lot area again for both the lots to be severed and retained from 370 square meters to 351 square meters. Since the public meeting on Tuesday evening, there was a letter of objection received, which was circulated to council. The application was circulated for comments, and staff remain of the opinion that the proposal is appropriate. There are some lots in the area, although they front on at the corner of Salter and Powell Street. They have a similar dimensions, notwithstanding that they're a corner lot. And staff opinion that the 2 single attached dwellings will remain compatible with the surrounding area. And staff recommend that applications be supported.
Thank you. Looking for a mover and a seconder before we ask questions. Councillor Lauder, moved by, seconded by Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock Council advise the Land Division Committee that the city supports the proposal to sever the subject property subject to the following conditions, and there are 6 of them. And further, that the Woodstock Council advise the Land Division Committee that the city supports application file A 23-04-8 submitted by David Redford and Justin Byers for lands described as part of lot 2 west side of Powell Street, Plan 48, City of Woodstock, and municipality known as 414 Powell Street, as it relates to the next 2 conditions.
Thank you. Questions of the delegation from council? To the planner? No? Councillor Schonberg?
I guess just a statement, the mayor through to the planner. I want to thank both these last 2 Water Street and Powell Street submissions because it does fill the infill qualities that we're looking for in the city of Woodstock, especially when it gets to a time where a property has to be rebuilt, so to speak, if you want to call it that, because of the provincial policy statement and other reasons, build more homes, more faster act, as well as come down from the province of Ontario, to be able to sort of say the city of Woodstock is doing our efforts to include as much intensification as possible within reasonable limits.
Thank you. Any other questions of the planner from council? Seeing none. All right, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? None opposed? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Gilbert. Next up, we have 9C, Z and 8-23-08, application for zone change, Corporation City of Woodstock, 1459 Devonshire Avenue.
Thank you. This is a zone change to rezone the lands owned by the city of Woodstock from prestige industrial M1 to a special active use open space to match the lands abutting to the south and west to allow for the future development of a municipal recreation facility on the subject property. The lands are designated business park, however, they're within the secondary plan for this area. East Woodstock secondary plan did include special policies that allowed for municipal recreational uses on industrial designated properties. As such, the proposed use is permitted by the official plan policies, and staff have no concerns with the proposed use, and the development will be subject to site plan control, where future considerations such as traffic and compatibility will be reviewed and satisfied to satisfaction of the city and the county. For those reasons, staff recommend support of the application.
Thank you. Looking for mover and a seconder, moved by Councillor Schadenberg, seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Questions of council? Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Read that first.
The Woodstock City Council approved the application for lands described as Part Lot 14, Concession 2, Blandford, Part 1 and 2, 41R-8016 in the city of Woodstock to rezone the subject lands from Prestige Industrial Zone M1 to a Special Active Use Open Space Zone, so it's OS 2-5, to permit a future municipal recreational building on the subject lands, and further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered during the decision made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Any questions of the planner? Councillor Schadenberg.
Strictly questions of the planner or from City of Woodstock? I just
Or the
noticed in
City
the
of
report that
Woodstock,
Mr. Gilbert has presented to us in tonight's agenda that the space involved is over 30 acres of property. So we're looking at a pretty good chunk of land that would continuation, what is commonly called Cowan Fields Park in Woodstock. But I do want to ask the Director of Parks and Recreation, who's sort of formulating plans and ideas based on plans and projects that could be used for this property with the zoning change.
Your worship, through to the council's question, most of the property and the plans that would go on there would be covered under the rec facility needs study that was done. So that would include future tennis courts, beach volleyball, pickleball, any future arena would go there, and the like, but we would follow the rec facility needs study, but this gives us the land and the space to put in proper parking and make sure that future needs are being met and that we have lands to do them on.
Any other questions of council to staff or the planning? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. Thank you. Next up, 9D ZN 8-23-05, application for zone change. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. This application is to amend the split zoning on the property. Has a M4 and a M4-3, which permits a health club. The purpose application is to add an additional permitted use, of women's maternal health clinic, essentially on the subject property within the existing building. The space would occupy approximately 3,000 square feet within the existing building. Staff are of the opinion that although the use is already there and seems to be functioning well, the official plan policies of the traditional industrial area only permit accessory office uses to a permitted industrial use. For these reasons, staff believe that this use would be more suited, or the policies direct this use to a commercial area or a business park area. As such, staff recommend that the application not be approved.
Thank you. I am looking for a motion and a seconder. So Councillor Lauder first, seconded by Councillor Leatherborough. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the zone change application submitted by R.W. Bond Limited for the lands described as lots 13-16, Plan 86 and Part Block 1, Plan 85 in the city of Woodstock to be rezoned from transitional industrial M4 and special transitional industrial M4-3 to an amended special transitional industrial M4-3 to add professional office uses to the permitted uses. And further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. Discussion? Counselor Lauder?
I'm in support of this zone change. It seems to me, after listening to the speakers on Monday night that, or no, Tuesday night, that it was similar to the health club that was there previously. So, and they have been there for 2 years, and it's something that's needed in our city. And so therefore I'm supporting this.
Thank you. Counselor Wheaton?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I also will support this application and the approval of the zone change. As I look at the permitted uses under the M4 transitional industrial zone, an animal kennel, an animal shelter, and a veterinarian clinic are all permitted uses. So I feel like if we can take care of a cat and her kittens, we can take care of a mother and her baby. They are identical to me in types of uses, and therefore there is no permitted zone for the type of use. It just isn't a perfect fit anywhere within our permitted zones, and for that reason I fully support this and encourage the owners in their work.
Thank you. Any other question? Counselor Tate?
Yeah, just through the chair, obviously, I'm going to support this. So hopefully all the stress from the last 2 years is now over with, because it was really stressful for them getting open at the last minute. And I have to thank the city planning department that worked with us to get them open and going and to this point. So we forgive you, Mr. Planner.
Okay.
I'll remind the public that the planning department has to work within a certain set of rules. So when it's not set out, I realize it's a tougher spot. Counselor Wismer Van Meer?
Through the chair, just a general comment. I too will be approving the zone change. I think very similar to what I said on Tuesday. The neighboring business is offering very similar services, and as a mother who didn't get to have services like this, and I definitely could have used them, especially with the second time. I think it's fantastic that our community can have something this phenomenal. So keep doing the amazing job you're doing. And I haven't visited the website for a while. And before our meeting on Tuesday, I was absolutely shocked at how much your staff has grown. So I think that alone speaks volumes to the work that they're doing, and very happy to support it.
Any other comments? And I'd just like to agree with everything that has been said. I think they're adding such a value here to the city. I know they open up in an extremely tough time. You survived the worst of it. And now that we've got this zoning properly for you, continue doing business. Wish you well. And again, as the public meeting on Tuesday night stated, a lot of us had a lot of open discussion that this is a very transitional type of neighborhood. And I certainly believe with the massage therapist and everything else right beside you, it only makes sense. So there you go. We'll put it to vote. All those in favor? None opposed, unanimous, carried. Next up, yeah. Next up, we have 9E. 32T-00001, request for extension of draft approved plan of subdivisions, villages of Sally Creek. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. This is a report requesting council support for an extension of draft plan approval for a subdivision known as Villages of Sally Creek. Subdivision was originally draft approved in 2001. And there's been a number of draft approvals since then, extensions. The last extension lapsed on December 31st of 2022. However, the Planning Act was recently amended to give the approval authority, the ability to reinstate the draft approval, to bring it forward to council to consider for consideration for an extension. Staff have no concerns with the extension for a 2-year period. It's noted that they have registered a number of phases in the past, and they're expected to register an additional phase within the next couple months. So for those reasons, staff recommend the extension be supported.
Thank you. Looking for a motion on the floor. Counselor Leatherborough, seconded by Counselor Schadenberg. Counselor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council advise Oxford County that the city supports a 2-year extension to the draft approval of the Villages of Sally Creek Subdivision 32T-00001 for lands described as part of lots 3, 4, and 5, concession 11 East Zora in the city of Woodstock to September 30th, 2025.
Thank you. Questions of the planner or staff? Before I call the vote, Counselor Schadenberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to Mr. Gilbert, I still like the whole overall concept of this, that everything on one side of Lakeview basically is adult only lifestyle community and having sort of a family area. But can you explain to us why this would lapse or possibly could lapse? I mean, you can only, as I say, build so many houses so quickly or sell so many lots so quickly to other builders, so to speak, to fill in this subdivision. What's the premise behind this ever lapsing?
Typically, we have a set lapsing date. So in case the development approvals aren't acted upon, if there's another development in town that is proceeding ahead of them, there's ever opportunity or a situation where there's a constrained servicing capacity. The ability is that the city and county could let the draft approval for this lapse and assign that to someone else. So that's the reason behind the scheduled lapsing dates for all subdivisions. In this case, I think they have been working towards the next phase, which we registered probably in the next couple months. But I just think the lapsing date just everyone missed it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Next up, we have 9F, implementation of provincial direction regarding additional residential units. Mr. Gilbert.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to get council direction to initiate amendments to the official plan and the city zoning bylaw to update both documents with respect to the passage of Bill 23. The city originally adopted provisions for ARUs, I believe in 2021 or 2022. Since then, the province passed Bill 23, which expanded the as of right permissions for ARUs, particularly up to 3 ARUs may not be permitted on every residential lot in the city that's serviced by municipal water and wastewater that contains a single attached dwelling, semi-detached dwelling, or a townhouse. And of those 3 units, 2 can be in two of the additional units can be in the principal dwelling, or 1 unit can be in the dwelling and 1 in a detached accessory structure that's accessory to the residential use of the property. The province also clarified the parking requirements. So the city cannot require more than 1 space per ARU that's being added, and that parking space can be provided in tandem, so behind an existing space. So the city cannot require any more than that. Also, the recent changes to the Planning Act through Bill 23 indicates that the city cannot require a minimum unit size for an ARU. So in some municipalities, there is a minimum size they had to be. So that cannot be contained within any official plan or zoning bylaw. Apart from that, the other zoning provisions that required to be met are still applicable. That would be your minimum lot frontage, your landscaped open space. The city can still set a maximum gross floor area. They can also still use ratios to limit the size of ARUs. The report outlines some amendments that need to be made to the official plan. These are fairly minor. Currently the ARU policies permit them in R2 zones in the city and C3 zone. Through Bill 23, that will have to be expanded to R1, R2, R3, as well as HD, which is the historical district zone, which permits single detached dwellings. And we'll also have to update the number of ARUs from the one that's in the policy to 2 additional. With respect to the zoning provisions, there's a number of things that have to be changed, including the number of ARUs per lot and where they're permitted. Again, we'll have to expand that to R1 zones and R3 and the Heritage District zone. The other provisions that we recommend remain are the lot area and lot frontage. So the ARU, staff are proposing ARU would not be permitted unless the property meets the R1 zone provisions. We recommend that the maximum size per unit remain at the 40%, with one exception is that if you're converting the basement of a dwelling, you'd be allowed to convert the full basement so that people don't have to construct a wall for the sake of complying with the maximum floor limits. We're looking for council direction on ARUs and accessory structures. We're receiving a lot of inquiries about ARUs in the second story of accessory structures, because typically applicants want to have the first floor remain for storage of garden tractors or household items, and have the ARU in the second story of the accessory structure. Currently, the zoning bylaw permits limits the height of a detached structure to 4 meters, which is only 13 feet. So the second story isn't possible. The city has historically stuck pretty tight to that limit, and variances to increase the height to allow 2-story haven't been permitted by council or the Committee of Adjustment. So we're looking for direction from council whether you'd like to see that remain. The other item we're looking for direction on is the lot area requirements. Some municipalities have done away with the lot area requirements for ARUs and accessory structures. So no matter how big your lot is, if you can fit a building in accordance with your lot coverage requirements and your setbacks, you'd be able to, and you met your parking requirement, you'd be able to establish it in the rear yard. Other municipalities are still maintaining a minimum lot area, recognizing that sometimes if you have the accessory structure, you need a bigger backyard to accommodate that and amenity space for occupants of the dwelling. Plate 1 that was included in the report just provides a graphical analysis of what the implications are of some of the lot sizes, specifically for the R1 zone. So if we stuck with the current 1,000 square meters lot area for a accessory structure, ARU and accessory structure, that would be 850 lots. If you lowered it to 666 square meters, that would be an additional 2,070 properties that'd be eligible. And if we left it at the minimum R1 lot area, that would be 2,240 lots in the city that'd be eligible for ARUs. So these are some of the options the city has available. As noted, the purpose of the report was to initiate the amendments. We anticipate bringing them back as soon as possible, given the number of inquiries we're getting for them. And it's noted that to the recent changes, there is no appeal rights to council's decision on ARUs apart from the minister. So third parties and citizens have no appeal rights, but we are required to go through the regular zoning public consultation requirements. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions, but primarily we're looking for direction on those matters.
Okay, before we get into that, I'll look for a motion on the floor in a second, then we'll have discussion. Councillor Wheaton carried, seconded by Councillor Leatherborough. Councillor Wheaton, go ahead.
Thank you. That Woodstock City Council directs staff to proceed with the amendments to the official plan and zoning bylaw related to the implementation of policies and provisions enabling additional residential units in accordance with provincial direction as set out in the More Homes Built Faster Act and accompanying regulations.
Thank you. This council has proven on multiple occasions on intensification, so this is a big one here. Discussion. Sorry, I'd like to start it off. Councillor Wheaton, would you like to speak to that?
I'll just echo your last comment there, Mayor Accioni, that this does give us the opportunity to achieve some intensification goals. Which I think that, well, some of the numbers that are being proposed to us won't fit every single property and might be unrealistic on many properties. It does give homeowners the opportunity to create a second unit or an additional residential unit, providing that it fits within all of the other parameters that are set out, including parking and setbacks and so on. So I think it's a fantastic tool. I would like to see us provide the planning department and the planning department to come back to us with some recommendations on what some of those parameters really work for us as a city, so that we can address some of the inquiries that are coming in and see some progress on intensification within the city.
So I may just add to that. I believe you are looking for some direction even tonight. If we took something like the height, I know this is one I get quite often from what is the appetite of council to allow ARUs above garages, for example, or additional accessory structures. Is there thoughts on that? Councillor Wheaton?
I'll just say that I would support an increase in height to allow a secondary unit within an accessory dwelling. I don't know what the exact number is to achieve that. I would defer to your expertise, but I would support that notion because I know that that's where a number of applications are currently resting.
Did you want to speak to that at all, or?
We've had some discussions with the city chief building official, and probably a 6.5 meter height would accommodate a second floor, depending on your roof pitch and the design of the building. However, so that's about 19 feet.
My thoughts, if I may, along this is there may not be room in homes, but if somebody is building a garage, this is an opportunity to add an additional, hopefully affordable, you would assume, unit here to the city of Woodstock that we're certainly in desperate need of, as long as they fit within parameters that we can control. A lot of these we cannot control. It's been made very clear by the province. But are you looking for exact direction tonight, or do we have to go through a vote? I don't know if there's commonality amongst all council or not. I don't see a lot of people hands up to speak. So Councilor Leatherborough?
Through your worship, I'm not sure who to volley this question to, but I wasn't sure if this was tonight's discussion or if there was going to be a different channel to dive a little deeper into council's thoughts on that. Just for my clarification purposes, thanks.
Actually wondering the same thing myself, I gotta be honest, so. There you go.
Your worship, just to the confusion on the floor, I don't believe the planner is seeking a specific motion of council tonight. I think he's raising it as an uncertainty that he'll bring forward certain options for council to consider. So it will be an issue. It is an issue that was recently appealed to the OLT. We will have a hearing on accessory structure height soon. So we will have the benefit, I think, of what the tribunal's thoughts are with respect to this question. In terms of the appropriateness of it, this is a difficult one because it should always be about whether it fits into the neighborhood. And if you have an accessory detached garage in a neighborhood filled with 2-story homes, I don't think it's going to be an issue. But if you have somebody wanting to build a two-story detached accessory garage in a community filled with bungalow small homes, then it's going to look out of place. Fortunately, you can't zone that way. You have to pick a lane and stay in the lane. And so this is the question that council is going to struggle with as you receive these zoning proposals in the future.
Okay, thank you. Counselor Lauder?
Thank you. Couple of comments. Like, I feel that 19 feet would be extremely high, especially if you're looking down into some neighbors' homes and their backyards. I can't see that would be something I would like. But we'll see when, of course, it goes before the tribunal and see what comes out of that. And I guess that'll give us more direction of what we have to do. One concern I have is, and I've always had, is about this parking and parking on the streets. Is there anything that can be put in there that with a street, a certain width, I don't know the width of, I'm not good at feet or anything like that. All I'm thinking of is the safety of fire engines and our garbage trucks and snow plows and that getting down the streets when there's parking on both sides of the street. And if there's tandem parking, someone is going to be parking out on the street. The other one's going to be in because one comes home at a certain time of night or day, and another one has to get off to work. So is this the time that we could implement something that there would be parking only on one side of the street for streets, whatever width? I just know going up through Fairway and in the north part, it's a single file going through there because there's cars on both sides of the road. Thank you.
To you, Mr. Mayor. Through zoning, you can't require anything beyond a tandem space or one space, and it specifically can be accommodated through tandem parking. The reality is, you're right, it will be parked on the street. I think the only way to deal with that is to, have parking restrictions on one side of the street to ensure that the roadway width is maintained for regular, maintenance.
So again, just through to Mr. Gold. So does that go into this, or is that something that we have to do separately?
We could bring that forward as part of a consideration that when we pass this amendment, that a report also be generated to look at on-street parking restrictions to mitigate some of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Schadenberg. Sorry, I don't know who had their hand up first. Yeah.
Thanks from the mayor through to Mr. Gilbert. I don't mind sitting here that I've been sort of against the ARUs and R1 zoning for a long, long time. And I'm going to say that. And having said that, your boss, Gord Huff, across the street, Oxford County Planning, said that all along to me. He says, well, Mark, you're going to have to sort of wrap around your issue around this, that at some point in time, the ARU is going to come into effect. But the reason I'm saying that is, I think that there could be quite a list of ARU requirements. For example, I think the storage should be different if it's owner occupied on the main floor and a tenant in the basement versus tenant upstairs, tenant in the basement. The rules could be or should be different, especially when it comes to things like separating the hydro systems. Who's going to pay the hydro when the basement tenant's got hydro going all day long or whatever, or what the heating system in the basement's going to be? Is there going to be two furnaces, one furnace, electric heat in the basement? I think there's a lot of scenarios to figure out. And the last one I'll state as far as the differences, and I gave Gord Huff a long list about 3 years ago of requirements that I thought would be necessary, would be the fact that I wouldn't want the basement apartment to rely on microwaves and hot plates because they don't have a proper stove oven plug in their basement, based on the fact that the 100 amps in the house doesn't qualify for enough amperage to be able to have a proper, even a 24-inch stove in their basement. That's another thing that I've got concerned with.
I don't really think there was a question there, more of a statement, correct, Counselor Schadenberg? Was there a question? Just a statement. Yes, what I thought. Just want to make sure. Counselor Tate.
Yeah, through the chair, and I'm going to be consistent because I do not support these AUs, and I think I've stated that all ARUs, and I've stated all along, it concerns me that some of these residential neighborhoods that are single family homes, the effect it will have once you start allowing all these additional rental units. So I understand this motion is just here and it's gonna come back. There'll be criteria when it comes forward, but I'm still gonna vote against the motion because I don't like it.
Okay, thank you. Is that enough direction at least for tonight, Mr. Gilbert? Oh, Counselor Schattenberg?
Just as an aside, is the provincial policy statement 2023 actually been passed by Queen's Park?
The 2021 is in effect. These changes bypassed that policy statement. They directly amended the Planning Act. So we're waiting for a new PPS, potentially in December. It's supposed to be announced. That may have further supportive direction, but right now all this criteria is directly amended in the Planning Act. So we have no choice but to follow it.
Any other question before Counselor Wismer Van Meer?
Through the chair to Mr. Gilbert, and maybe this is not something you would have the answer to today, but with ARUs and kind of what's coming forward with all of these new requirements, do the units have to be considered like fully accessible in that, as what Councillor Schattenberg said, that they are able to have the proper ampage to have a full kitchen, full bathrooms, all of those aspects? Or could it be, here's a bathroom and a bedroom and you don't have the usage of full appliances? And, you know, are those kinds of restrictions outlined in what classifies as an ARU?
Through the mayor, so to get an ARU, a legal one, you have to apply for a building permit. And through the building permit, they look at, you know, electrical systems, the plumbing. You have to have, for basement ARUs anyways, you have to have your egress windows, you know, appropriate access and egress. The big one is fire separation. The bottom line is creating these units isn't cheap. You know, especially we were talking this week, and you know, in an ARU in a typical second floor of a accessory building, you're probably looking at over $150,000 just to create it. So there's no guarantee that the rent to pay for that would be, you know, really affordable either. But it is an additional housing option. But to answer your question, yeah, there are some building permit requirements that you have to satisfy. Other municipalities have, like Pickering and Brampton and others, have done a licensing system where the city actually licenses them and has a registry of them for enforcement reasons. Not all municipalities have done that, but you do require the building permit at a minimum.
Thank you. Any other questions from council before I call the vote? Again, to make sure we're clear, you've got at least enough direction to go forward. Okay. And with that, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 5-2 for those watching at home. Next up, we have consideration of correspondence. Counselor Schattenberg.
The Woodstock City Council received a resolution from the municipality of Grey Highlands regarding stop cameras on school bus arms as information.
Looking for a seconder. Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Counselor Schattenberg, like to speak to this?
Yeah, the reason I've gone with this is just receiving as information, because I think it is an important topic to be on our agenda, for people to notice it, to be on our agenda. But it was approved by Grey Highlands on June 21st of this year, 2023. And they require their request is to require all school buses to have stop arm cameras installed and paid for by the province for the start of the 23-24 school year. And I would think that at this point in time, sitting here in August, I'm not sure if that would be possible. But I think it's important for us to at least have it on the agenda.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions on this? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Carried. Next up, we have a report from David Simpson, Director of Public Works for Transportation Master Plan. Councillor Leatherborough, seconded by Councillor Tate. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council receive the correspondence Oxford County Public Works regarding the Transportation Master Plan as information.
Any discussion? Councillor Tate.
Through your chair, I just want to make a comment that in credit to Director Simpson, took out the word of realignment in one of the areas of the transportation report, which we took a very big exception to at County Council, the mayor and I. So it helps the developer where there's one area, the developer's bought a large piece of land in Woodstock and he's trying to get it developed, and that word had a particular problem for him. So thank you to Director Simpson that he took that word out.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Leatherborough.
Through your worship, lengthy report, read it all, as I always do, but I just wanted to note that the 2021 census indicated, and this pertains to mode share. The 2021 census indicated the auto single driver comprises the majority of trips, which was 75.3%. So in my perfect world, I would like to see that number decrease, although ridership in the city of Woodstock is doing well. And I just found that quite eye-opening when I saw that pie chart and a very lengthy report to our city county councilors.
Yes, Councillor Wheaton.
So just to follow up on that comment, auto driver, I did ask the question, also includes transport trucks. So it's not just vehicular traffic. It doesn't change that it is still a very large number, but it is a comprised number. I'm curious, a question of staff, will there be other feedback, because this is still a draft policy, a draft report? Will there be other feedback from the city that we anticipate before this comes back to County Council in September?
Your worship, through the councillor, we are still going through it. Not sure if we have any, if we'll just make comments directly to them or come back to council with any recommendations. It is open to the public right now, so the public can also access it and comment on it directly also.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
A general comment, and this is one that I made to Mr. Creary while I was meeting with him this week, and I realize that's not going to happen on this level here, but I think it would be extremely beneficial to the county if they could, when referring to some of these roadways, actually use the street names that are proper to those in our communities, because as an individual who has lived here for 44 years, as I'm reading that, I'm thinking, what is this road? There are some that are very common, but to the average citizen who's looking at that, and if you want the feedback of these people, you have to make it easy and accessible, because they just, not everybody knows the names of these roads. So I would love to see the TMP done with, you need to use the county road name, just a brackets of what the common name might be to help people understand where this is, and just make it a little more user friendly if we want the feedback of our community. Just a thought.
Totally agree with that. We've made those comments actually at county council as well. And for those watching, definitely take a look, because this master plan is very, very detailed. It's going to show you future bike lanes, possible traffic lights, improvements for intersections, as well as even roundabouts and such. So it is a very detailed report, forgetting the fact it might take you a few extra minutes to pull up what the road is. Of course, it's a county document, so they're all county roads that are mentioned. So with that, any other questions before I call a vote on taking as information? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. And next up, also from Mr. Simpson, Director of Public Works for Oxford County. This one is Water and Wastewater Master Plan. Councillor Wismer Van Meer, seconded by Councillor Lauder. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
That Woodstock City Council received the report from Oxford County Public Works regarding the water wastewater master plan as information.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'll just simply say from a county councillor or deputy warden, I guess, perspective. Again, for those at home that want to know anything about the water, wastewater that's going on around, not just in Woodstock, obviously, but in the entire county, there's a document you want to pull up to see about wells and everything else. Oh, Councillor Wheaton?
Sorry, just to follow up on that, that this is also a draft document until September 25th, 26th, I'm forgetting the date, but, and it is on, like the previous one is on Speak Up Oxford, that if people, that's a great place to find it, to pour through it, and it is open for feedback from municipalities and the public.
Thank you. Anything else before, oh, Councillor Schanberg?
I guess adding one point to what Bernie, Councillor Wheaton just said, the one thing that can be said about the entire report is it's good until 2046. So if you see something that maybe jumps off the page, keep in mind that this is long-term planning by the County of Oxford, both the previous one on transportation and this one on water and wastewater. For example, the one that jumps off the page to me, and it's only because we talk about residential areas in the county of Oxford, whether it be Tillsonburg, Ingersoll, or Woodstock, to be able to see the East Township of East or Tavistock will be required to upsize and twin the force main to Woodstock from Interkip. That one kind of frightens me, and a question marks start flying in the air. But I also do realize that this is till 2046. So sometime between now and then, that's likely going to be needed.
Okay. Anyone else before I call the vote? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried, accepted as information. Next up, we have the Thames Valley District School Board revised plans of a new North Woodstock school, and this is certainly welcome. Looking for someone to move. Councillor Leatherborough, seconded by Councillor Wheaton. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council support the request from Thames Valley District School Board and that the mayor send written correspondence to the Ministry of Education and Oxford MPP, Mr. Ernie Hardeman, in support of an immediate approval of revised construction plans of the new North Woodstock School to accommodate capacity issues from school community growth.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor Wheaton.
Just a very small technicality, but I was wondering if we could add a friendly amendment to that, that it also correspondence be circulated also back to Thames Valley District School Board, just so they're aware of the, I don't think they're listed. Just so they're aware of the correspondence.
Yeah, it's their request, but I guess we could. I don't see any issue with that. Anybody else have an issue with that? As a friendly amendment? As you're the seconder, so the person that moved it, are you okay? Councillor Leatherborough with that?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. And with that small addition, Councillor Wheaton?
I think that I applaud the Thames Valley District School Board in being proactive on making this change and recognizing that the number of residential units that have been draft plan approved by far exceed where we were even a few months ago. I still, from 660 units to 856 units are student pupil places. I'm still not sure that that's going to be enough by the time that this school is built. Hopefully that there is a plan in place to add a phase or an extension if that is so needed rather than portables. But I think that this is a huge step in the right direction for Thames Valley District School Board. Fully support it for our community.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Schanberg?
I will once again agree with Councillor Wheaton, and I guess the statement to be is that the school board always does accommodation reviews to try to guess which are underutilized schools and which are overutilized schools. In other words, overpopulated or schools that could use more students, and they've done that significantly in the city of Woodstock. But I would still go back and on the opposite side of that and say the Thames Valley District School Board was almost. In other words, it's time to get the shovel in the ground and start building that school at the capacity that is required, and that's 856 students. The accommodation reviews really did deal with the other side of Pittock Lake, not the north side of Pittock Lake. So I was always puzzled with that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Well, I'd simply say thank you to the two trustees that were so willing to speak with me, take calls, go emails, and sit down together in my office and talk about some future concerns. And I'm really, really happy that they took them seriously and we had these discussions going back and forth. Of course, my fear was with all the new plans of subdivisions out there, as most of us know, that technically isn't normally part of those discussions for a new school. So the fear was a brand new school opening with 8 to 12 portables right off the bat and always being behind. So thank you to the Thames Valley District School Board for recognizing that for sure and looking at our future plans for their consideration. And the address was 717 King Street. I guess it's already assigned. I apologize. I don't have that in front of me, but people can look it up in the agenda for sure and see that. Any other discussion before I call the vote? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. Thank you. Next up, Derek McKee, Coordinator of Supported Employment, Job Links Employment Services, posting sign request, looking for a motion. Moved by Councillor Lauder, seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I'll move that Woodstock City Council support Job Links Employment Services posting signs at various locations from September 18th, 2023 to October 10th, 2023, subject to staff approval.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed, carried. I just want to say thank you again to Job Links. Here's another business that is coming forward, requesting putting signs up instead of just going around and putting signs up. So this way we our public works and parks and everybody else know where the signs are, and that respect is given. So thank you very much. And next up, we have Cody Zimmer, a fireworks ban electronic petition. Now I will, before we bring this forward, this was for those watching, a collection of names of approximately 80 names carried over 2 years from individuals worldwide, from France, Nigeria, USA, and yes, Woodstock, Canada is on the list as well. The full list for those curious is available on the agenda of the website. Now, no resolution is required as this is dealt with under Department Report 14I.1, Consumer Fireworks Ban Bylaw. Okay, so everybody is aware of that. No staff presentations tonight, mayor's report, council reports, but we do have some department reports as discussed. First up, 14A.1 OILC financing bylaw approval. I'm looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Wismer Van Meer. Councillor Tate.
Refer to bylaws.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Next up, 14A.2 Statement of Revenue and Expenditure, Statement Capital Expenditures for period ending July 31st, 2023, moved by Councillor Wismer Van Meer, second by Councillor Leatherborough. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
That Woodstock City Council received the statement of revenue and expenditure and the statement of capital expenditures for the period ending July 31st, 2023 as information.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just a comment, in looking over the revenues, the camps registrations, it was really great to see that what budgeted at 250,000 was over 314,000. So it's really great to see that those camp registrations were up and we're seeing people back at them again. Of course, we realized that a few years were restricted for us to do that, but also just to the staff, I have a few, my children have aged out of the camps, unfortunately. And fortunately, because they work at home when I'm not there, but I had a lot of friends that had kids that went and they were raving about how great the camps were this year. And one parent that I know has had an older child that attended and a younger child now attending said that they thought that they have really upped the game as they said. So just kudos to that staff because I've been hearing phenomenal feedback about the camps that were offered this year. And I think that they should be recognized for that. And obviously it's reflecting well with the numbers we see, and I'm sure we'll see those numbers go up.
Thank you. Counselor Schattenberg.
Yeah, from the mayor through to Harold DeHaan from engineering office. One of the things that was approved in our budget for 2023 on the capital side was to, for lack of a better term, rebuilding the Dundas Street from Van Sittert down to Oxford. Just wanted to know how the planning of that is going because the project hasn't started as of yet and whether or not there might be any changes to it.
Your worship, through the counselor, thank you for asking. We just tendered that project recently and awarded it. Construction should be starting next month. We did scale because of the we did not want it to risk the chance of working into next year because of the Van Ave Bridge happening next year. So we are we're scaling it back to just redoing the intersection at Van Ave and Dundas. We won't be going all the way down to Oxford. Or sorry, Mill Street as part of this project. We'll have to basically push that back for a couple of years until some other projects are done, so it doesn't interfere with detour routes. So hopefully by the end of the year, we'll have 2 traffic signals at that intersection.
That I think everybody will be very excited that drives in the city of Woodstock and goes to that intersection for sure. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next up, we have engineering transit service to 1231 Nellis Street. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Leatherborough, seconded by Councillor Tate. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council received the report regarding transit service to 1231 Nellis Street as information.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Schattenberg.
I guess the question to our engineering department from the through the mayor. Just wanted you to give us maybe the background on how things are calculated, because it goes without saying that 7 transit routes are trying to get back to the depot in 30 minutes and how things are timed out.
Your worship, through the counselor. Yeah, you basically just summed it up very nicely there. The way the system's set up right now, all the buses meet at the top and bottom of the hour at the transit terminal. So each route is basically restricted into how far it can travel in 30 minutes. Right now, we've got things pretty well timed. We're making the routes pretty much well over 95% of the time. Sometimes coming a little early, sometimes coming a little late. Basically, I suspect that in the next couple of years, next time we change the transit routes, some, if not all of the routes are basically have to break away from the transit terminal and do more of it, like if the big cities have more of a grid system where people will be jumping from bus to bus in order to get where they want.
Go ahead, continue.
Yeah, obviously, a lot of the measurements are done from one bus stop to the next bus stop, similarly to when you're looking at how far traffic lights could be apart from each other. But there's bus stop currently at WDDS. And if you say it's not feasible to have a bus go down 1231 Nellis for various reasons, is it possible to have another bus stop at the corner of Nellis and
Your worship,
Lansdowne?
your worship, through the counselor. Currently, there is a bus stop at the corner of Lansdowne and Bysham, which is one block south of that location that you just mentioned. In order to put a bus stop at the location you mentioned, we would have to reroute one of the existing bus stops, thus adding probably a couple minutes to the existing time, and then therefore running the risk of that bus running late. There's no way we can actually go down to the requested address since it's a cul-de-sac, and a bus would not be able to turn around in that cul-de-sac.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Nothing from cultural services tonight, Parks and Rec, but we do have economic development. This is proposed extension of timing to build commitment for Agarwal. Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Wheaton. Councillor Tate.
I'll move that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign an amending agreement with 2427224 Ontario Inc. as described in the report.
Thank you. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. Next up, 14E.2, passage bylaw to close an untraveled portion of Juliana Drive. Looking for a motion to move. Counselor Leatherborough, seconded by Counselor Wismer Van Meer. Counselor Leatherborough,
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council stop up and close a portion of Juliana Drive as described in the report and that the necessary bylaw be read.
thank you. Discussion? Or questions of council to staff? But I'll simply say for those watching at home wondering what part of Juliana are we closing? Technically, may I say, no parts. It is a section of road that was originally designated as part, but has never been used. So don't worry, nothing's really changing as far as the public's concerned that way. And with that, all those in favor? None opposed, carried. 14E.3 is Community Improvement Plan Agreement. Counselor Schattenberg. Seconded by Counselor Lauder. Counselor Schattenberg.
The Woodstock City Council approved the Community Improvement Plan application for properties located at 379 Dundas Street, 507 Dundas, 521 Dundas, and also 75 and 85 Rock Street, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the necessary agreements. And further, the approved funds be taken from the downtown reserve for these projects.
Thank you. Discussion? Counselor Schattenberg.
Yes, I know that Carrie Jarby's here from a downtown development right now, and then specifically, there's 4 addresses of note. I'll comment to one of them, and that's because I've known D White for a long time from D Light's Bakery for many, many years. She did the cake at my wedding, and I have my 20th wedding anniversary next month. So I've known Dee for obviously a long time, and she's one of the people coming forward finally with a CIP project that looks like it could go forward now.
Yeah, I believe she's doing some brick and everything else. Any questions? Yeah. The staff on this? Counselor Wheaton?
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I'm just not gonna let you off that easy. Just walk back to your seat. Is it fair to say that there are years that go by where this program is undersubscribed, and it's exciting to see this year the number of applications that have come forward for downtown improvements?
We had quite a few applications that had been on the books for about 5 to 7 years, that with COVID, we were giving people a little bit of grace time. So we first cleaned them up so that we knew exactly how much money was in the fund. There were actually 5 projects that were submitted. And then these are the ones that were chosen based on concentrating on Dundas Street and residential intensification. So it's hard to crystal ball who is going to apply. And we want to make sure that the funds are, I would refer to this, that I believe that there's a specific amount of money in the fund. So we don't want to overprescribe ourselves.
Any other questions? Counselor Schattenberg?
Yeah, I guess without going through the program completely, there are some specific requirements and guidelines that the people have to follow to be able to improve their facades, and more than just their facades of their storefronts.
Yeah, so we do have facade improvement guidelines for the downtown that have to be followed, and all of the applications that were approved, they all followed, which is keeping with more of a heritage structure, proper surfacing, things like that, that we don't want to have, just to make sure that it is complementary to the existing structures downtown.
Any other questions before we let her have a seat?
I didn't have to open my file folder.
Okay, thank you. And with that, then I'll call the vote. All those in favor? None opposed. Thank you to all the applicants, of course, and to improving the appearance and everything of your buildings. Next up, we have nothing from clerks, but we do have CAO office opting out of flyer deliveries. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Counselor Wismer Van Meer, second by Counselor Leatherborough. Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
That Woodstock City Council received the report regarding opting out of flyer deliveries as information.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Counselor Wismer Van Meer.
A question maybe for the CAO on this. One of the things that I do hear from people is regarding this, reaching out to these folks that are delivering these. So for instance, I know we mentioned Oxford Review, Center Review, if people, the Oxford Review, I should say, when people are receiving those during the week, they opt out online, they go through that process. And I've had quite a few people that have said, I've done that, but I'm still receiving them. Is there any measures that we within the municipality are able to go back to these distributors to say, this is happening? I mean, I don't know what level we can have achieved that these aren't being dropped off, because I know I've had quite a few people that mentioned that they had gone through that process, but we're still receiving the package.
Your worship, Councillor Wismer Van Meer. I think it is a difficult one in the sense of if you're referring to, like, we'll go door to door dropping off specific handbills or flyers. That's a very difficult thing to track in terms of trying to find out who the source of it is and to pursue that. I think this report is dealing specifically with the regular known, the Oxford Review. There is a program that you can subscribe to opt out. It's dealing with Canada Post. Anything beyond that, I don't have a great answer for how to go about enforcing an opt-out provision.
So that's just to follow up, that's what I'm referring to is the Oxford Review has, you go to their website, you fill that out, but and no fault of theirs, they have carriers that are delivering these for them. And I mean, mine's just hooked on my driveway once a week. So I don't think the process of opting out is always being followed through, and people are getting frustrated saying, I drive by houses that have signs on their yards that say no Oxford Review or no flyers or no distributions. So I just wondered on a municipal level, is there any action that we have to be able to follow up with Oxford Review on that?
I'm going to ask the deputy clerk to speak to that. That's okay.
For your worship, to the councillor's question. So the city clerk has gone through the process herself personally, and she said that the process does work, but Oxford Review did mention that it could take a few weeks before it could actually kick into effect, so that the drivers doing their routine distribution get the message. But outside that, it's really outside our jurisdiction and we wouldn't really get involved.
Thank you. Just had questions on it, so I thought I would ask to get the answers to those folks as well.
That's the whole purpose of tonight. Any other questions or comments? With that, all those in favor? None opposed. That is carried and taken as information. No human resources reports tonight, but we do have fire services. So 14I.1 consumer fireworks ban bylaw, looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Leatherborough, seconded by Councillor Tate. Councillor Leatherborough.
That Woodstock City Council establishes an implementation date of January 1st, 2024 for the revised version of Municipal Code Chapter 802 Consumer Fireworks. And further, that staff be directed to prepare the enabling bylaw and draft short form wording and associated set fines for council approval to proceed with an application for approval by the Ministry of the Attorney General.
My apologies, Councillor Leatherborough. What was the date? You mentioned September.
January 1,
Oh, January
2024.
Sorry. Thank you. Councillor Tate seconded that motion. You're okay with the date then? Yeah. Okay. Discussion? Councillor Leatherborough?
Since we have the fire chief and for the public's information, maybe you could walk us through the great report that you included in the agenda. I have all of these notes, but you are here. So just some feedback on, obviously you gave a bit of a timeline for our last scheduled holiday, things like that around implementation of the ban. So any extra information you could share, Chief?
Your worship, through to Councillor Leatherborough, thank you for the opportunity. One of the things for those who haven't had the opportunity to go through the report in detail is we did want to make sure that we clarified what fireworks specifically we're addressing here, and clarifying the nature that we are specifically just talking about the consumer grade fireworks. We do have display fireworks that are the type that are used for the Canada Day celebration. They're here. We're not in the discussion with a ban with anything with respect to those or anything underneath the pyrotechnics. So again, we are looking at just the consumer grade fireworks that you're able to purchase at your local stores without a specific license, and the bylaw is addressing those with that. We have looked through a number of the different municipalities that are in this avenue, and as it was mentioned, to the more prominent ones at the present time are Brampton and Caledon. And the bylaw draft that's before you is heavily influenced by those that are already there. Why, recreate the wheel when we can utilize something that has had the work done for that to set it up. So when we look at this, we are looking at minimizing or reducing the sale and the use of commercial fireworks, or consumer fireworks, simply within the borders of the city of Woodstock. We have, I think, arrived here based on the nature of the discharge aspect of it. I know that there's been some information given to council with respect to vendors and the safety and the perspectives of how they've gone through for it. And I can give you the information that City of Woodstock, the fire department, in enforcement of the existing bylaw, we've never had any issues with any of the vendors here within the community and how they've operated for both the sale and the display of their fireworks. As Erica from Fat Boy had mentioned, they go above and beyond with aspect to that. Anything that they can control, we've always had a great working relationship with the vendors that are here. The challenge that I think has brought us to the consideration of this draft bylaw has been what happens once those fireworks leave the vendors and are in with the residents at that point. The City of Woodstock Fire Department has taken great strides in trying to educate the public. I drafted the original 802 bylaw from 2004 in its current format, and have been in charge of and running that educational component to the residents, notifying them of the individual days that they're permitted to set off the fireworks and the restrictions that go on with it and everything from that standpoint. So I do feel that we've kind of, from some of the suggestions, some of the information that's been put forward, the educational components, I do feel we have met and we have gone through that route with respect to it. When we are looking at dealing with this, the potential draft bylaw for the ban, we do want to have the respect for these vendors that we've brought forward, that they have purchased product for the sale of the 2023 calendar year. They make an application for a license to sell fireworks in the city of Woodstock, generally at the beginning of the year, so that they can purchase their fireworks for the Victoria Day, Canada Day, and Diwali sales period. And they don't buy them individually. In many cases, at the times throughout the year, they'll buy their entire anticipated stock at the beginning. We don't want to leave vendors with the potential of a third of their stock sitting there in the store and not unsure what they're able to do with it. Additionally, when we looked at, and part of the recommendation was for the approved holidays, council approved the inclusion of Diwali just last year in 2022. This would have only been the second opportunity for those that celebrate that to be able to discharge fireworks on the approved day. And I think the opportunity to kind of continue that is a respect for that aspect there. We've already had 2 of the approved days. While we are looking at that consideration, there is additionally the timing to be able to put a bylaw together and the associated short form wordings to be able to issue citation notes. It is a lengthy process, as it does involve the Attorney General's office for us to be able to submit that. So rather than feeling like we're rushed to be able to put documentation together, if the draft bylaw is approved and moved forward, by having the opportunity for us to traverse through this at a proper pace and to be able to enforce the new bylaw if it does move forward, at the proposed date of January 1st, 2024, I think works well. It allows us to continue the enforcement actions that we have done since the last addition or amendment to the bylaw in 2022 for the duration of the 2023 year, without any changes or alterations with that.
Councillor Leatherborough.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one follow-up. Thank you very much for that. Great summary. I just wanted to ask you specifically for the public, Chapter 804, display fireworks. That has nothing to do with this draft bylaw and just how that works in terms of permit and, you know, hand in hand with the Woodstock Fire Department for safety. Just if you could elaborate that for me, that would be great.
Your Worship, through to Councillor Leatherboro's question. So as I mentioned at the onset, there are different classifications of fireworks. Chapter 802 that we are addressing now are the consumer grade fireworks that anybody can go and purchase. Chapter 804, as was mentioned, addresses what's classified as display fireworks, which are a specific or high hazard firework in which you need to have a license to be able to not only to purchase and to discharge them. These are generally set displays that are performed or set off by a professional company. And we still anticipate to still process that right through and still allow that to be out. They are not restricted to days of the year, whereas the consumer fireworks are. These are items that, as were mentioned in the previous presentations, might be utilized for weddings, for celebrations, for that type of thing. How that works as far as the safety factor of it is to make an application underneath the bylaw, the individual who is coordinating the event needs to provide all the documentation to the Woodstock Fire Department for review. We look at the site of where they're anticipating that they're going to discharge them to make sure that it meets the regulatory distances for fallout based on the types of fireworks that they're going to plan to set discharge, up to 6-inch shells, that sort of that nature, and that all the federal regulatory provisions are being met, and that the developer or the company that is going to be discharging is licensed to actually both purchase and discharge fireworks at those scenes. So that is, those inspections and those reviews are completed by the fire department staff who are licensed as authorities having jurisdiction for these type of reviews. And then at the same time, on the day of the planned discharge, it is required that the authority having jurisdiction be on site prior to the fireworks going off to review and approve the discharge location to see that what has actually been set up and what fireworks are present are what were indicated at the onset. So we do have a measure of involvement through the fire department in this type of setup, and we ensure that the safety and the regulations at the federal level are being met.
Any other questions, discussion? Councillor Tate.
Through the chair, just a comment supporting the motion, and I appreciate when it came forward from Councillor Leatherborough at the previous meeting. I think this is extremely important for our community. I think that we have to be shown as leaders at some point. I know back in discussions, I was talking to Councillor Lauder about this way back when the smoking bylaws came forward to the city of Woodstock. So we had non-smoking in public places in the city facilities in such a distance. We were one of the first municipalities to do it. The province ended up also following suit, and I believe it was the city of New York that took our bylaw and used it as an example. I think this was a big step for this council to do it. I think it's very important. I love fireworks. I don't know anybody that doesn't love fireworks, but I cannot believe the number of people that came up after and said, thank God that you guys did this motion to ban fireworks. It causes a lot of problems in the community. We've had a lot of complaints. I didn't realize how many were thankful that we did it. And I just want to comment, like, we've had property damage just at our own facilities. Our basketball court has had burn marks. There's been garbage. And it's not just that, it's the excessive noise, it's the children, it's the pets, It's everything that goes on without it. And I know this is a big step, but I think we need to be leaders and step up at some point and say, you know what, we're doing this for the entire community, not just for a certain part. So, and thank you for your work on this. I do understand that, you know, there already are the 2 bylaws, so it was easier, but I think that there will be a lot of municipalities that will follow suit.
Councillor Shanberg.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to thank the fire chief, Jeff Slager, for staying here throughout the evening. And I do want to point out that the fire department, I'll call them a double L, Lucas and Lisa, put together a nice PowerPoint demonstration, and we did a public meeting out at the Cowan Sportsplex facility. And I was there, and there was one couple there from the city of Woodstock. I mean, besides the city staffers and others on council or whatever, there was only one couple that came out that really were concerned to learn. And these weren't people that wanted to do fireworks displays. They wanted to make sure that they were correct as to what they thought were the existing bylaws in the city of Woodstock, because they wanted to be nice enough people to question their neighbors putting off fireworks on different days and whatnot. So they were there as concerned citizens. There was nobody there that was coming out that night to question why it is that you can't do fireworks the day after Victoria Day or the day before Victoria Day or any other holidays for that matter, to sort of protest the idea. So I was kind of thought it was great that the fire department put on this demonstration in this public meeting, but then of course very disappointed that literally only one couple showed up.
Your worship, through to Councillor Scheidenberg. Thank you for that. I will pass the comments through to our prevention team. They did a lot of work with that. As a follow-up with that, the presentation that they did make on that night at the Open was actually put together and with voiceover. You can find that on the Woodstock Fire Department Facebook page. So if there are those, the current bylaw is still in its current format, so the presentation is still valid.
Yes, I've actually directed people to that on Facebook. Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
More of a general comment. And I know I did have some people reach out to me afterwards. Actually, Councillor Tate, I'll probably be one of the very few people that will say, I actually really detest fireworks. I don't like fireworks. No offense to city staff who go to so much work in putting them on. I don't even attend the large display. I've grown out of it. I have gotten to a point where I just don't enjoy that sound anymore, but I struggle with supporting this bylaw on a couple of reasons. I did have quite a few people that did reach out to me after on the other side of what Councillor Tate has said and asking, why are we being so strict, so fast, so quick? I know that some of these other bylaws came into effect a year ago and they want to know why we're already jumping on another change. And that is where I've struggled with this one. I myself would be a-okay if that never happened in my neighborhood again or any of our neighborhoods in the city. But I do sit here and listen to what Ms. Hogan said from Fat Boy and think of, these businesses that are going to be affected by this as well. And I think of them as just as any other business within our municipality and what they are now going to face. So for me, that's why I struggle with supporting this bylaw and why I'm still not able to put my full support behind it at this point.
Thank you. Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I was wondering if I could just take a step back, Chief, to a comment you made a little while ago to just ask for my own personal clarification. So if someone is hosting a cultural event or someone is hosting a wedding or someone is hosting a large gathering, there still is a process for them to get a permit, to follow guidelines, to check off the boxes that meet requirements. Is that still in place if this bylaw is approved today?
Your worship, through to Councillor Wheaton. Yes, there is that process in place for the classification of fireworks that are considered display fireworks or high hazard. In addition to the City of Woodstock display a few years ago in celebration of an anniversary, and I'm probably going to get the year, I think it might have been the 100th anniversary of the Woodstock Agricultural Society, something like that. They went through this process where we performed a review. They had a display class fireworks event on the center, like in the racetrack area there, that we reviewed and approved at that point. There was no date required for that. There's no bylaw resolution required for council to approve an alternate date for that. The process is already in play for individuals to have that sort of event. Right.
maybe I'll add to that just to clarify. So we're talking about an event that would be approximately, let's say, $5,000 to $10,000 of cost versus hundreds of dollars of cost versus the 802 to the 804 type of fireworks we're talking about here. They are completely different, correct?
Your worship, through to the question, yes. Cost, I can't really put a dollar because
Fair.
again, it depends on the grade, display fireworks can be 1/2 inch shell up to a 6 inch shell, depending on what you want to invest. The fact is you are hiring a professional company to do that. So the cost will, if we're looking apples to apples, will be at a higher cost level because you're not just buying the consumer grade fireworks, correct?
If I may ask, before I continue, Canada Day fireworks, what did we spend this past year on that? Is that something fairly handy? I can move on and let you look that up if you don't mind, if that's okay. Excellent. Well, let's move along to Councillor Lauder, please.
Thank you. I will be supporting this motion. I have had several calls and comments and saying that this is great that this is happening. They've been waiting on this to happen. And actually, one gentleman last night was telling me about fireworks that was let off along his street, not this year, but in previous years. And they didn't clean up and they didn't fully extinguish them. And it ended up, one of them ended up in his truck, and had he not noticed that, he would have lost his truck. So when I was in growing up, that same thing happened down the street from where we live, and we had picked up a firecracker, and their house was on fire. It went into the house. So I just I totally approve of this. And one question you were saying on the 804, have you had many requests, or is it just that one for the agriculture one set on commonly?
Your worship, through to Councillor Lauder's question. No, as far as other than our participation in the Canada Day celebration, in which we go through the exact same process, we're part of it right from the start. The Agri Society is the last event that I'm familiar with. I think it was one of the last ones I did when I was still in my position as a fire prevention officer. Through there, I don't believe we've had any others come through since that point. I anticipate that if the city does move forward with the ban of the consumer grade fireworks, we might see a slight uptick in that for those that wish to have the option for to still have displays.
And just a comment on that, then it will be regulated and things, and so therefore it's not going to happen for the week before and the week after like it's happening now. So it would be that specific date, and I don't see any problems with something like that it is going to be regulated. So I could agree with that.
Your worship, through to Councillor Lauder, correct. The professional companies that do these displays are very protective of themselves and ensuring that they follow the federal regulations. They could lose their license if they don't. It's a livelihood for them in many cases. So we work very well with them. The companies that we've operated through with for the city displays, they're top notch. Again, the professionals in this industry, both at the consumer grade and the high grade, are very good at what they do. They're very knowledgeable. They take safety very seriously. We've never had an issue with the professionals in either avenues of this up to this point.
Councillor Wheaton.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. Just as a follow-up to Councillor Lauder's questions and concerns about safety, can you speak to that specifically? Have there been incidents reported specifically to the fire department besides the calls of complaints that you've had to respond to that are often, an added expense? Have there been specific calls for safety that you're aware of, that you've responded to in recent years?
Your worship, through to Councillor Wheaton's question, the only times that we as the fire service are going to get a call is if there's a fire. In some cases we have, and I don't have the exact dates and I can't pin specifically to, we have had instances in my time in both as a fire prevention officer and in management at this level. So we're talking over 20 years since this bylaw was written originally, where we have had fires on nights where fireworks have been let off that we're not able to attribute to a specific cause of where an ignition source is. Now, I am cautioning that we're not able to say fireworks caused this fire, but at the same time, playing both sides, but we're not able to say that it wasn't. We are aware when fireworks are in the area or have been discharged in that area. But again, we're not able to directly attribute it to that. And I wouldn't feel confident being able to put weight behind that.
If I may, Ms. Campbell, I think you found the information.
Yes, your worship, through to the question. The expense was just over $22,500 for Canada Day.
Thank you for that. So again, the big difference between the 802 being discussed today to the chapter 804 that's available, as was asked by Councillor Wheaton, if that helps at all. If I may, has there been any discussion or thought from your level? And I apologize, I know at the city level here this afternoon, there was a little bit of discussions about maybe having a different system in place, a permit system. Has there been any thoughts or anything, or I guess, what are your thoughts if we were to have, instead of going to a complete ban system, if we had some kind of permit system where, again, the thought is you would know there, or the police would know, bylaw would know that a certain address, you know, was going to be scheduled to light off fireworks, you know, at between 8:30 and 9:30, let's say. So again, there's no concerns of you going out, running to those calls, trying to find who the culprit might be for the complaints and everything else. Has there been any thought or discussion on that from your level?
Your worship, through to the question. We haven't had a specific thought on it, but on the top of the head type of process or thought with this. When I look at this, we have within the current 802 bylaw, if you are having a display with a planned display with over 20 people going to be in attendance, you are required already to make application at least 7 days before the approved holiday for a permit to be able to host that. That's been in the bylaw since 2004 when it was originally drafted in its current format. I've had, I think, 2 people in that entire time that I have personal memory of request those type of permits for it. And I can probably say with, you know, with no reservation that those aren't the only 2 times more than 20 or more people have been at a location where consumer fireworks have been discharged. The only other frame of reference I would have for a permit process is our current open air burn bylaw. We do require a permit for you to be able to have an open air burn bylaw. That has been in play. And again, the date, I can't remember when I brought that to council. It's been probably 15 years that we've had that in place for that. We still, within the fire service, go to residential addresses where they do not have an open air burn permit and they're having a campfire for that. If we're going with the fireworks avenue, we do have to have a time frame, a lead up time frame. As I said, under 802 at present time, it's 7 days before the approved date for us to be able to have the communication with the individual. Who's the responsible one? Are they of age to be able to do this? Can we go through the safety information with them and all that? There are also numerous times I think we're going to find people make a split decision. Plans have changed over a long weekend. We're home instead. I'm going to go out on a Saturday for purchase a bunch of fireworks to set them off that night. They're not going to go through with the permit process. I think there would be benefit or the potential of what we could get out there for the safety information as was brought forth that I think we are already doing a great job of to be able to get it out there. I think the logistics of it actually happening from the consumer side of it, not our side, would be very challenging to uphold.
Okay, and again, not putting you on the spot, of course, because we'd want to report a full report, but would you and your department have the, I guess you would have the knowledge and the experience to look at something that may require a permit if council so wish moving forward instead of a straight ban? Is that something you would be willing to look at and put together if it was a wish of council?
Your worship, through the question, I don't think in the interest of keeping my position, I'm going to say no to council. No, with that respect, joking aside, we will look at we do respect and address the what's put forth on resolution from council and do put our best foot, our best effort forward to be able to address and make that happen. So.
Of course, I knew the answer already before asking that, but any other questions, comments?
If I may just make one comment to Councilor Wismer Van Meer, just with respect to a comment that you had said about the changes with the bylaw and the restrictions having changed. For the residents that reached out that said, why did we just made some changes last year and why they're through, there have been no structural or restrictive changes to the bylaw made. Last year was simply the addition of Diwali. So the restrictions, the parameters that of the current 802 bylaw have been in their current format as far as, only the day of, not 2 or 3 days over, and the restriction of the sale since the onset of the bylaw in 2010 extended it from 5 to 7 days for it. I just wanted to clarify that. Sorry.
Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Through the chair to Mr. Slager. And I think that's what some of the comments I got were people were confused as to we've added more days to allow for this to happen. And now we're like, we're taking it away. So I think that was kind of some of the feedback I was getting from people. And like I said, again, and I've had a lot of people that came after me because a lot of people know that I'm very much an animal activist and they bring that to me. And I'm like, for me personally, I'm not opposed to it. I am not a fan of fireworks for many reasons, traumatic reasons as well. I got caught in Toronto when there was a shooting, and that's very triggering for me. So for me, there's many reasons why I don't approve of them. But when I have people coming to me, that's with some very valid reasons, in my opinion. That's why I'm struggling with the bylaw.
I'll add to that I've certainly had a lot more of the last few days commenting in favor of the ban versus initially when it first came out, I was just overwhelmed with people that can't believe we were even discussing this again with everything else we've done. So I would say at best, to be conservative, I probably got 50-50 from the general public of for and against. And I think that's where this becomes so difficult. It's definitely not clear one way or the other for me. And for this reason, I will not be supporting this ban as written. But anything else from council or anything else want to be looked at? Seeing none. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Worship.
And with that, I'll call the vote unless there's anything else from anyone. Okay. All those in favor of the ban starting January 1st. And so 5 opposed. That is carried. January 1st, 2024. Chapter 802 fireworks are banned in the city of Woodstock. Next up, we have Public Works, water and wastewater contract negotiations. I'm looking for a motion. Councillor Leatherborough, seconded by Councillor Tate. Councillor Leatherborough.
Moved by myself that Woodstock City Council received the report regarding water and wastewater contract negotiations as information.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Tate.
Just a comment. I mean, obviously can't say very much, but just that it's positive what's going on. So very happy to say that. I don't have to say anything negative about the county and the water. So it's very positive.
Yeah, she just said that. That's okay. Yeah. But I'll agree with that as well. So I'm just as guilty. And hope that negotiations will continue on successfully. Any other comments or questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call a vote. All those in favor? Carry, that's taken as information. Nothing from IT tonight. Do not have anything from Special Committee Advisory Task Force, no notice of motions, no new business. And that brings us to draft bylaws. Counselor Schattenberg.
That the following bylaws be given a first and second reading, moved by Councillor Mark Schattenberg, seconded by Councillor Deb Tate. 9614-23, a bylaw to repeal and replace the City of Woodstock Municipal Code, Chapter 16, Procedures. 9615-23, a bylaw to provide for additional financing for the Southgate Center expansion and renovation at 191 Old Wellington Road South in the City of Woodstock. 9616-23, a bylaw to provide for the financing of an outdoor pool at Cowan Fields, 1459 Devonshire, Woodstock. 9617-23 OILC financing application 2023. 9618-23, a bylaw to provide for the stopping up and closing of an untraveled portion of Juliana Drive. 9619-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended ZN 8-23-05 for the address of 209 to 211 Main Street. 9620-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended ZN 8-23-08 Lansdowne Avenue. 9621-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended ZN 8-23-06 for Bishop Park Drive. 9622-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended ZN 8-23-02 for Springbank and Brayside. And the last one is 9623-23, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended ZN 8-22-23 for Park Row and Raglan.
Thank you. Well done. Those are a lot. Any questions, comments, concerns with those bylaws? Before I call the vote. Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried, none opposed. Counselor Schattenberg.
Yeah, moved by Councillor Mark Schattenberg, seconded by Councillor Deb Tate, that the following bylaws be given a third and final reading. 9614-23 through to 9623-23 inclusive.
Perfect. Thank you. Last chance. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And tonight, because he hasn't done enough talking yet, we're going to start with Councillor Schattenberg.
Thanks a lot, Your Worship. Everyone's going to want to talk about Cowapalooza, so instead I'll talk about something else. Campbell Amusements returns to Woodstock Thursday, August 24th to Sunday, August 27th. It's the Woodstock Fairgrounds for the annual Woodstock Fair. They close at 11 p.m. on the first 3 nights, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So lots of time to go out and check out the midway, et cetera, et cetera. And on Sunday, the last day is 9:30 to 5 p.m. WoodstockFairgrounds.com is the website for more information.
Thank you. Councillor Lauder.
Thank you. I have a report from the Art Gallery. The Woodstock Art Gallery's popular Taste of Art fundraiser is making its grand return on September the 23rd, 2023 from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. So mark your calendar. We are excited to welcome our community back in person for a ruckus. I don't know, but a rough night anyhow, I guess, of artful experiences. Oh my goodness, bodacious beverages and local cuisine. This year, the event will take over all 3 floors of the Woodstock Art Gallery with stations for sampling and tasting from local food and craft beverages producers, music, live performances, and art activities, and more. This is a 19-number event. Thank you to all our sponsors, lead sponsor, Investment Planning Council, and the other sponsor is media sponsor, Heart FM. Early bird tickets are on sale at $55, and they're still on sale until the end of the month. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at Cowapalooza. I won't mention any more about it. And I have an exciting weekend because it's my granddaughter's wedding, and I won't talk to you anymore about this because I'm so and this is my first grandchild to get married, and we're looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you, and please wish them a congratulations, I think, from all of us here at council. And we're gonna bounce completely and go to Councillor Tate. Let's mess things right up tonight.
I just want to comment about the funeral that most of us attended for the police dog that passed away. It's always sad when it's an animal, but it's like one of the family and it's like a co-worker with the police. I have a little bit of background with the police, and I just like to say, I remember one of the chiefs said to me, you know, my job each day is to make sure all my employees arrive back home and safe and alive. Being married to a police officer, it is a very difficult job. There's been calls I've had in the middle of the night before cell phones, and waiting for my spouse to get home. The office is calling because they had a call. Somebody tried to run him off the road. Didn't happen, but then I had another call. My son and his father were away at a tournament, and I'm getting all these calls from the police. I'm like, can you please have him call? Can you please have him call? Well, he was on a biker enforcement unit, and there was a large mass murder, which he was part of the team, but the word was that he was one of the ones that was killed. So it's stressful. It's a very stressful job. I think we have to remember that. Policing has changed. Unfortunately, my son has decided he wanted to follow into his footsteps. When we see the police, I think we have to appreciate what they do, what they go through. It was very emotional because, like I said, it's not just an animal, it's like one of the co-workers, so it's difficult. On a happier note, I would like to congratulate Councillor Lauder's granddaughter. I know how much work you've put into it, all the jam making, all Councillor Lauder is responsible, I think, just about for the whole entire thing. So good luck with that. And also congratulations to our city engineer on his 30th wedding anniversary next week. That is a big achievement in this day and age. And I have to say, I do know his wife, met her a number of times, and he is a very lucky man. And he should be very thankful. So enjoy.
And just for those at home, he's nodding very hard, so he knows us. Councillor Wheaton, let's go this way.
Thank you, Mayor Accioni. I'll be honest, I didn't have a ton of time to prepare for these thoughts tonight. Busy week with planning, county council, a number of other engagements. I am very excited about Taste for Art. We'll be there as a demonstrator on a food exhibit. I'm very much looking forward to, first of all, vacation, but second of all, Association of Municipalities of Ontario conference coming up August 20th to the 24th. It is our opportunity not only to network with other councillors from across the province, but with ministers, deputy ministers, and to have delegations and sit down and talk about what the reality is in our communities. On a more personal note, a passing of a colleague, some would remember Adrian Gordon of Gorewood Automotive, where is currently now your farm market. Adrian passed this week. And so for a lot of people who were customers of Gorewood Automotive, grieving that loss. And so thoughts to his family.
Thank you. And we're going to bounce to Councillor Wismer Van Meer.
Just a couple of quick things. The City Beautiful Awards last night, they did a fantastic job putting those together. It was the first time I've been able to attend the event in that style. I attended ones in the past, back in my radio days, where people were handed a plaque and congratulated. So it was really nice. They did a great job with it. Mother Nature was being a little bit intolerant, but battled through, and kudos to those folks that stood out in that rain to finish that ceremony. So congratulations to all of the nominees and the winners. I look forward to Cowapalooza next weekend, having Sam Roberts Band and all the other acts that will be coming. Just a quick note, in the last month, 2 people I care about have been diagnosed with cancer, and they are heavily relying on blood transfusions, plasma transfusions. So if you can, get out and donate, because it does save lives.
Thank you. We wish them well. And last but certainly not least, Councillor Leatherborough.
Thanks for sharing that, Counselor Wismer Van Meer. I'll keep mine simple. I thought the summer was gonna be a little lighter and it's been really busy, a lot of great quality time with my kids in between camp, council and all of the stuff. So I just hope everybody enjoys the remainder portion of the summer because it is still ongoing. Someone ran into me the other day and said, summer's almost over. So anyways, yeah, and I'm looking forward to the AMO conference. So just enjoy the rest of your summer and that's it.
Thank you so much. Definitely Cowapalooza. I'm really excited for Sam Roberts' band on the Saturday night. I encourage everybody to get out, enjoy. You know, these are some fairly big names with the Trews last year. We've been able to secure, enjoy responsibly, but come out, bring family and friends and have a great time. Excited as well with the Woodstock Fair coming up. I got lots of great memories taking my daughters. I'm excited to think while I'm sitting here, I'm actually going to be able to take a granddaughter next year with me for the first time. So that just made me a little giddy, I will admit, while thinking of it. Taste of Art is always one of our favorite events of the year. My wife and I really enjoy that. So I encourage you, if you don't normally, especially if you don't normally get out to the art gallery, this is one of those events. It's a perfect opportunity. Come out, check it out, see what it is. I assure you, you are not going to go home hungry. Remember the first year my wife and I went out for dinner first. That was a huge mistake. But for, I believe it's $55 a ticket. It is quite reasonable. And trust me, you'll understand once you've experienced that event. So I encourage everyone to get out there. AMO, we've got another, some delegations, another one confirmed, let's say today. So I'll be speaking with council on that. And definitely stay tuned to your WOW magazine going forward. We've got such a great department now taking over and looking at all the future plans. And I'm so excited. City Beautiful Awards was fantastic. Unfortunately, the rain made it a little more memorable maybe than we'd like, but it made it very intimate. Everybody ran under the tent pretty quickly, but listen, we didn't miss anything. All the awards were given out. I spoke to all the ones that received it. They were very happy. And of course, the meal was fantastic. So congratulations to all of them and thank them for making the city beautiful for sure. Okay. And with that, we'll go for an adjournment. Looking for a motion. Councillor Wheaton, seconded by Councillor Leatherborough. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Enjoy the rest of your summer, everyone. Thank you very much. Good night.